This morning, I opened my closet and reached for an old white linen dress I used to love. I held it up, smoothed the fabric between my hands, then quietly hung it back. Not because it wasn't beautiful, but because I wasn't sure I still felt like me inside it. My name is Margaret Lane. I'm 68 now, and after dressing women for over 40 years, I've come to believe that fashion after 60 isn't about looking younger. It's about living more truthfully. It's about tenderness, about choosing what still feels like home. If you've ever looked at a summer dress and thought, "This used to feel easy, now I don't know how I feel in it," then come sit with me a while. I still remember Evelyn. She was 74 when we met. She came in just to fix the hem on an old skirt, but we ended up talking for nearly an hour. At one point, she looked down at her lap and said quietly, "I used to love wearing dresses, but lately, it's like they've stopped seeing me." And I understood, not because she wasn't beautiful, but because the dresses, the styles, the cuts, the colors no longer spoke to her with softness. So today, I'm not here to point out what's wrong. I just want to share a few things I've noticed, gently, honestly, so that maybe the next time you slip on a summer dress, you'll feel like it remembers you too. Mistake 1. Wearing a dress that erases you. This morning, as the sun came in through the east window, I was folding my summer things. Slow, careful, the way we fold what's familiar. I picked up a soft linen dress in pale blush, light as breath, worn thin in places. I used to wear it every Sunday, with a brooch right near the collarbone. But today, as I held it, I caught myself thinking, did this always feel this shapeless? At a certain age, we start reaching for comfort, not just in fabric, but in invisibility. Loose dresses, soft lines, flowing hems, they feel like safety, like we're being gentle with our bodies, especially when our bodies no longer match the ones we used to dress with ease. But sometimes, comfort becomes a kind of hiding. I remember a woman named Jean. She was 67 when she came to me. Tall, elegant, with that quiet sadness some women carry around their waistline. She walked in wearing a wide, billowy dress. Beautiful fabric, but no shape at all. "It's easy," she said, tugging the sides. "It doesn't cling to anything." We tried a few pieces, slowly. I brought her a wrap dress. Still soft, still forgiving, but it followed her shape just enough to remind her she had one. She stood in front of the mirror, touched her waist with both hands, and whispered, "I forgot I still had this." It wasn't vanity. It wasn't about size. It was about permission, to be present again. You see, when we dress only to disappear, the world listens. But when we wear something that holds us gently, that suggests a silhouette even if it's soft, it says, "I'm still here." Your dress doesn't need to be tight. It just needs to remember that you exist, that you have a body that has carried stories, children, loss, joy, decades of becoming. Softness is not the absence of shape. It's the grace of knowing you still deserve to be seen. Tell me, have you ever worn something so loose it felt like you vanished inside it? I'd love to know. Next, let's talk about something else I see far too often. Dressing not to disappear, but trying too hard to reclaim youth. We'll take a gentle look at that in just a moment. Mistake 2. Playing too young, losing your story. I was sitting on the porch last spring, sipping iced tea, when a young delivery girl dropped off a package. She smiled at me and said, "I love your dress. It's so vintage cute." I smiled back, but as I walked inside, something in me paused. I looked down at the pastel ruffles, the puffed sleeves, the little bow at the collar. It was a dress I had bought online, on impulse, during a lonely evening. It reminded me of a girl I once was, or maybe of a girl I thought I needed to be again. You see, somewhere in the quiet pressure of aging, we're handed this strange message. If we dress young, maybe we'll feel young. If we borrow the lightness of a 30-year-old's wardrobe, maybe we can borrow her place in the world too. But clothing has memory, and sometimes when we reach too far back, we lose the beauty of who we've become. I think of my client, Linda, 65, widowed, with silver hair she wore in a perfect low twist. She came to me before her granddaughter's graduation. "I want to wear something happy," she said, "not too grandmotherly." We tried on a few things. One was a bubblegum pink dress with a high frilly neckline and playful ruffles down the sides. She laughed when she put it on. But it was the kind of laugh you give when something feels almost right, but not quite yours. Then we tried a soft coral shift dress, clean, simple, with just a quiet glimmer at the sleeve. When she looked in the mirror, her whole face softened. "This," she said, "feels like me. Not who I used to be. Me today." It's easy to confuse youth with joy. But true joy doesn't come from dressing like your granddaughter. It comes from wearing something that honors the woman you've grown into. When you dress like someone else's youth, you leave your own wisdom behind. I wonder, have you ever worn something that felt more like a costume than a celebration? I'd love to hear. Next, let's talk about something even trickier. Not when we try too hard to look young, but when we wear prints or colors that overpower us completely. Let's look at how to dress with beauty, not beneath it. Mistake 3. Heavy florals that weigh you down. Last week, I was rearranging the linens in my guest room when I came across an old floral bedspread. I unfolded it slowly, soft cotton, faded over time, with giant red roses scattered across a navy background. I smiled. My mother loved prints like that. They were bold, dramatic, and a little heavy. Beautiful, but heavy. It reminded me of something I've noticed, time and time again. Many women over 60 reach for florals not because they love them, but because they feel like it's what we're supposed to wear. It's ladylike, we say. It hides things. It's safe. But some florals, the big, clashing, vine-wrapped kind, they don't always carry us gently. Sometimes they drown us. I remember Caroline, a longtime client and a dear friend. She was turning 70 and had planned a garden tea with her daughters and grandkids. She came to me holding a dress still in its bag, long, ruffled, full of massive purple flowers. "I think this is cheerful," she said, almost defensively. "It says spring." We tried it on, and it overwhelmed her. Not just the colors, but the way it seemed to take up more space than she did. Her shoulders seemed to disappear beneath the pattern. So we tried something else, a soft ivory dress with delicate green vines and tiny blossoms at the cuffs. It didn't shout. It didn't need to. It framed her, lifted her. She looked into the mirror and said, "I feel lighter." As we get older, life already carries enough weight. We don't need our dresses to do the same. A floral doesn't have to be loud to be joyful. It just has to let you speak first. Florals shouldn't enter the room before you do. What kind of prints make you feel seen, not hidden? I'd love to know in the comments. And now, let's talk about another way dresses can send the wrong message. Not through the print, but through the story they're trying too hard to tell. Dresses that are fun, but not your kind of fun. Let's look at that next. Mistake 4. Dresses that try too hard to be fun. The other day, I walked past a boutique window on Main Street. There was a mannequin in the center wearing a neon yellow sundress, oversized polka dots, puffed sleeves, tiered skirt. A sign underneath read, "Fun and flirty for summer." I stopped and stared, and I remember thinking, fun for whom? There's a certain pressure, especially as we age, to show that we're still light, still vibrant, still game for anything. And somehow, that often gets translated into clothes that sparkle, shout, or spin like a carousel. But fun for me, at 68, has changed. It's no longer about being noticed across the room. It's about feeling good in my skin, feeling peaceful, beautiful, yes, but on my own terms. I think of Donna. She came to me before her retirement party. "I want something festive," she said, "not boring, something that says I still know how to have a good time." She brought in a dress she'd ordered online. Bright orange, giant ruffles, sequins on the sleeves. We laughed together when she tried it on. Not because it was ridiculous, but because it felt like it was meant for someone else's party. Then, I showed her a soft silk dress in deep teal, not loud, not plain either. It shimmered quietly when she moved, the kind of dress that doesn't need to announce fun. It simply remembers it. She stood there for a long time, hands resting gently on her hips, and whispered, "This feels like something I'd wear if I didn't have anything to prove." And that, to me, is the point. You don't need feathers or glitter to show that you still enjoy life. You just need something that lets you move freely, smile deeply, and feel like yourself in the sunlight. Fun isn't louder than you. It's the part of you that still dances when no one's watching. Tell me, what's something you wore that made you feel joyful without trying too hard? Now, in the next part, we'll explore something more subtle, but just as important, the waistline, and what happens when we forget we still deserve to have one. Mistake 5. Ignoring the waistline. Yesterday morning, while putting away laundry, I paused over a cotton dress I hadn't worn in years. It was lovely. Soft blue, small buttons down the front, but completely straight from shoulder to hem. No shape, no story. I folded it slowly and thought, when did I stop wanting to see my waist? Somewhere along the way, maybe after menopause, maybe after grief, maybe after one too many comments about letting ourselves go. Many women start to believe their waistlines are something to hide, or worse, something they've lost. But I've found that the waist, however soft, however changed, still carries so much of our presence. It's the quiet place where structure meets softness, where clothing stops floating and starts embracing. I remember Judith, one of my clients, a retired school principal. She came to me just before her 66th birthday. "I don't wear belts anymore," she told me. "They make me feel like I'm trying too hard." We tried on a few dresses, loose, lovely, but shapeless. Then I offered her a wrap dress, deep green, tied gently at the side. No cinching, no pressure, just a suggestion of shape. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the knot at her waist, and I'll never forget what she said. "I feel like I exist again, like the dress remembered there's still a middle to me." And there is. Whether you define it with a seam, a soft tie, or even just the way you hold yourself, it's still there. You haven't lost it. You've just stopped asking for it to be seen. Your waist isn't about size. It's about belonging to your own outline again. Do you have a piece of clothing that gently reminds you where your center is? I'd love to hear. Up next, let's talk about something that isn't always visible, but you can feel it: the fabric. Because sometimes what touches your skin says more than what meets the eye. Mistake 6. The wrong fabric for a real summer day. This afternoon, I was hanging laundry out on the back line, something I still love to do when the air feels soft and the sun isn't rushing. There's a rhythm to it, folding pillowcases in the breeze, pinning cotton dresses by their shoulders, letting them breathe before I do. And as I watched them sway in the wind, I noticed something I've learned to pay attention to. The dresses that moved, the ones that lifted and danced, were always made of natural fabrics. The others just hung there, stiff, heavy, quiet in the wrong way. I've spent years helping women find dresses that feel good on the outside, but as we grow older, comfort on the inside becomes just as important. And yet I still see it, the pull of a synthetic summer dress. It's on sale, or it looks smooth on the hanger, or it promises no ironing. So we bring it home, slip it on, and by midday, we're sticky, restless, overheated, and quietly annoyed. It happens because many synthetic fabrics, polyester, acrylic, even some cheap rayons, don't breathe. They trap heat, hold onto moisture, and cling to the skin when what we really need is space. Not just physically, but emotionally. Because let's be honest, at this stage in life, we've been through enough. We've endured discomfort quietly, in our shoes, in our bras, in our own thoughts. Our clothing should not be another thing we tolerate. I remember Anna. She was 72, full of joy and that kind of warm, disheveled elegance I've always admired. She'd just returned from a garden party, still fanning herself with a paper program when she walked into the studio. "Margaret," she said, "I wore that dress I told you about, the one with the pink print, and it felt like I was wrapped in saran wrap all afternoon." She was laughing, but there was a tiredness in her eyes. She said, "Everyone said I looked beautiful, but I couldn't wait to take it off." We tried something different that day. A soft sage green dress in a linen blend. Light, airy, with sleeves that moved when she moved. When she looked in the mirror, her whole body exhaled. "This," she said, "feels like the kind of summer I want now." It stayed with me, because a real summer day, especially at our age, is about ease, not sweat, not stickiness, not pulling at seams or counting the minutes until you can change. It's about letting the fabric move with you, not against you, about choosing something that lifts with the breeze and lets your skin feel the world again. Linen, cotton, lightweight blends that allow softness and air and space. These aren't just fabrics, they're an act of kindness. Yes, linen wrinkles, but I like to think of those wrinkles the way I think of my own, as a sign of having been lived in, of warmth, of memory. Wrinkles in fabric are not flaws. They're softness made visible. I'd love to know, do you have a summer dress that makes you feel that kind of softness, that quiet kind of freedom? Share it with me below. And next, we'll look down, to a detail that's often overlooked, but carries the entire look. Shoes. Because even the most graceful dress can lose its voice if the shoes don't sing in harmony. Let's talk about that next. Mistake 7. Wearing shoes that break the look. I was standing in my garden last Sunday morning, watering the lavender beds in my cotton house dress, when I caught a glimpse of myself in the reflection of the patio door. The dress looked easy, the breeze was kind, but then I noticed my shoes. Big rubber-soled slip-ons I had thrown on without thinking. Practical, yes, but looking at the way they tugged the whole outfit down, I chuckled to myself. "Margaret," I whispered, "you know better." And I do. Because over the years, I've seen so many beautiful outfits, graceful dresses, thoughtful colors, fall flat because of one small thing, the wrong shoes. For women over 60, comfort becomes sacred. We protect our joints, our backs, our quiet afternoons. But sometimes, in choosing what feels good underfoot, we forget what supports our presence. I remember Marie, a client of mine, 69, recently retired from a long career in nursing. She came to me for help finding something to wear for her son's wedding rehearsal dinner. We found the perfect dress, soft navy, cap sleeves, just a little shimmer at the neckline. It made her eyes glow. But when she tried it on with the chunky orthopedic sandals she wore every day, the magic faded. Not because the shoes were ugly, but because they told a different story. I gently offered her a pair of low almond-toed flats in soft champagne leather, just enough structure to support her feet, but light enough to let the dress breathe. When she put them on, she stood taller. She smiled without saying a word. Shoes, at our age, aren't just an accessory. They're a punctuation mark. They say, I've taken care of myself and I still care how I show up. The right pair doesn't need to be high or narrow or trendy. It just needs to finish your sentence with quiet grace. And no, this isn't about giving up comfort. It's about asking for more from your wardrobe, more thought, more harmony, more moments where everything you're wearing feels like it's in agreement. The most elegant shoes aren't the loudest. They're the ones that let your presence do the walking. Tell me, what pair of shoes makes you feel that quiet kind of lovely? The kind that doesn't demand attention, but simply fits? In our next moment together, we'll look at something many of us quietly wonder about: length. Because sometimes the dress is lovely until we sit down and wonder, is it too short now? Let's explore that together. Mistake 8, the fear of showing skin. Just this morning, I was sitting by the window brushing a bit of lotion onto my arms, the same way I've done for decades, only now the skin is softer, looser, marked with stories. I paused at my elbow, noticing the light catching the fine lines there, and for a brief moment I thought, Should I cover this? Old habits speak quietly like that. There's a hush that falls over many women after 60. The hush of sleeves pulled longer, necklines drawn higher, hemlines dropping with each passing year. Somewhere along the way, we start hearing that to age gracefully is to hide. That skin, once celebrated, is now something to tuck away. But I've come to believe the opposite. I remember Elaine, 73, sharp-witted, always wore red lipstick, even on grocery runs. She came to me before her anniversary dinner and said, "Please don't put me in anything sleeveless. My arms are, well, they've lived." We both laughed, and I said, "That's exactly why we should let them out." We found a dress, soft cream, flutter sleeves, a gentle V at the neckline, hem just below the knee. Nothing too bare, but nothing hidden either. She looked in the mirror and touched her collarbone with the back of her hand. It's been a long time since I felt elegant without armor. And that's what this really is. Not about skin, but about not needing armor anymore. Yes, our skin changes. It folds, it spots, it softens. But so do petals, so does parchment, so do the most beautiful things we cherish. You don't need to show everything, but don't hide everything either, especially not out of shame. A short sleeve, a gentle neckline, a slit that catches the breeze, they're not there to shock. They're there to remind you that you are still worthy of light. When you stop hiding your skin, something inside you comes forward too. I wonder, is there a part of you you've been covering, not out of choice, but out of fear? Let me know if you're ready to let it breathe again. And now, as we draw near the close of this little walk through summer style, let's return to something deeper: the emotional weight of clothing. Because sometimes what we keep in our closet says more than we realize. Let's talk about that next. There's this idea, quietly whispered, rarely questioned, that summer dresses belong to the young, that they're for girls with sun-kissed shoulders and bare knees, running through wildflower fields. But that's never been true. Summer dresses are also for you, for the woman who has loved deeply, lost quietly, grown softer in places she never expected, the woman who still wants to feel the breeze wrap around her legs, who still wants to wear color, who still wants to walk into a room and feel like herself. You don't need to dress to be younger, or smaller, or quieter. You don't need to copy what's on the magazine rack or what your granddaughter wears. You only need to dress in a way that brings you back to you. Maybe that's a cotton-wrap dress that ties gently at the waist. Maybe it's something sleeveless that shows the part of your arm that once cradled a baby, or held the hand of someone who's no longer here. Maybe it's linen with wrinkles that tell the truth, that you've lived and that you still are. Choose the dress that lets you exhale. Walk slower, stand by your garden gate and feel the sun on your skin without wondering who's watching. Smile at yourself in the mirror, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. This life we've lived, these bodies we carry, they deserve to be dressed with care, not correction. Wear the dress, not the doubt. Let it move with you. Let it remind you that softness is strength and simplicity is elegance. And if this video helped you feel seen, even just for a moment, I hope you'll share it with someone else who might need that same gentle reminder. We're never too old to feel beautiful in our own skin. Until next time, my dear, take care of yourself and take the pretty dress out of the closet. It's been waiting.